everybody. My purpose, if I'm being honest, up here is to present a intellectual interlude so you can take a break from the heavy lifting that you're about to have to do when Yosha presents our granular approach to these things. And I'm going to do that by doing my best to give you a very brief understanding of how we came to be and how we have coalesced to the state that we're in now. But actually, before I do that, I just want to say thank you for being here. This is a deeply emotional day for all of us. You know, Yosha pointed to all of the people who have poured themselves into this thing on a volunteer basis, just hoping to do the right kind of work that Hickory was describing, and it has been a labor for a year and a half, and we didn't know that we would get to stand in front of you. And standing in front of you is the way that it quickens. You know, we can do all the work that we want to do, but without you here to observe it, to stand for it, and ultimately to participate in it, it just doesn't matter. And I'm so grateful that you're here. So, thank you. Just thank you for being here. Now, Yosha and I were reflecting yesterday on how this thing came to be, and he said, you need to tell them that it came into existence when you and I sat down and started talking about how to form an institute. And I want to tell you that that is almost entirely not true. I love the fact that he was trying to give me credit for something. Thank you very much for trying. The truth is that the seeds of this work itself is Yosha's life work. Yosha's been thinking about this for nearly 5 decades. What is true is that he has now, because of a confluence of events, been able to bring together those of us who can start to coalesce it into something more real, something more substantial, and that is where I come into the picture. So I'll just very, very briefly tell you how I arrived here and by way of talking about the timeline. So several years back, I was at a startup, and I left that startup to launch my own startup, which I think was a very good idea. And about a week after doing that, my wife was diagnosed with cancer. And after about a year and a half of fighting it, she succumbed. And in the last couple of weeks before she died, she had this realization that was so intense, it was so visceral for her. And she did her best to shove it into my identity, and I did my best to open myself up to it and allow it. And if I can just distill it, you know, I think if you haven't lived it, it might sound like a platitude, but really fundamentally it's just this. In the end, the only thing that matters is the quality of the time that you spend with the people that you love, and importantly, that love is available at any moment, instantly, if you allow it. And I needed to hear it. You know, I needed to shift my identity around that. I'm a better man because of that. And I've tried to be a parent through that lens, and I've tried to approach every project that I come to through that lens. And as you can imagine, after she died, I was trying to just find a way to grapple with how to be even, how to engage with the world. And the first person I thought to reach out to was Yosha. We hadn't talked in years, but I love Yosha. I've loved him from the moment that I met him, and there's something about Yosha's, not his intellect, but his soul, that caused me to trust him completely from the time that I did. And so I texted him, I said, can we get together? And he said, of course, and I went to see him. And we talked about Aubrey, and we talked about all that I've just shared with you, and I pitched him my startup idea, which I still think was a very good startup idea. And he said, yeah, you know, it's a good idea. But if you know it's coming, and I think you do, you know it doesn't matter. And you know that the one thing that does matter is that we welcome this thing into the world in the right way, as Hikari was saying. That we welcome it in the right way, with love. And, you know, what are you going to say to that? Yes, of course. That is the only thing that there is to do. This work to welcome that thing into the world with love. I'm here for it. So we talked about some details. How do you instantiate a thing? How do you make an institute become real? And then I started driving home and thinking about the heaviness of what we're actually trying to do. As Stephen said, we really need to build an artifact. I think that was Stephen. One of the advisors said we need to build an artifact here. That is extraordinarily heavy. The implication, you all know, the implications of that are so heavy, it's hard to really hold it in your head. It's slippery. It's so big, it's slippery. And I really started to think about, well, how do we build an institute that can hold that heaviness with integrity and not give way to the hubris or to the temptations that come with the kind of weight and power that presents. And the only thing that I can come up with is that it needs to be a team. It needs to be an organization built of, yes, the best and the brightest, but the people who are here for that right reason, for that thing's own sake, not for some ulterior personal motive, but for that which we are trying to husband into existence. And so I got, I'm back on signal with Yosha, and I said, I don't think we should do this. I think we have to do this, and we have to do it the right way. And he agreed, and so we started. And now here's where I get to just the timeline. That's the context behind it, and here's the timeline. We started with a movie night. We started trying to get the vibe right. Many of you came to those early movie nights. It was a lot of fun. And we started to see who could fall out of this collection of people gathering around this idea, who could, or maybe the better way to say it is, which spaghettis were going to stick to the wall? Who's going to start to join us? Who's going to understand this mission the way that we understand it and join us to do the work? And they started to do it. And all the people that Yosha referenced on the slides earlier quickened with us. And then we raised some money. We formed an entity. A couple of weeks ago, we actually started paying ourselves to some extent. And then we sent you invitations with not nearly enough notice. Thanks for coming, even though that is the truth. And here we are. And there's just one last piece I want to end with here. Because I take the work so seriously, and because all of us do, I really wanted to pay attention to Yosha in a particular way as we've started to form this thing, and I want to share this with you because I think it matters. I wanted to understand, is Yosha here because he needs to be a guru? Is Yosha here because he's feeding his ego? Is this a project about Yosha's identity? Because as much as I love him, and as much as maybe we could accomplish something through that process, that's not something I want to be part of. And I can tell you with certainty that Yosha is approaching this, his life's work, with immense integrity, with the framework that he articulated at the outset and that he's about to articulate with more granularity now. He approaches this work from those first principles. And any project that can fit into those first principles, even if he doesn't think it's a good one or doesn't think it's necessarily the right approach, is welcome to compete in that sandbox. And that's hugely important if we're going to do this the right way. So with that, I guess I will re-welcome to the stage Yosha to tell us more about exactly how we're going to approach this work.